Good day, peeps. Welcome to Heart Talks. Thank you for joining us today. I wanted you to meet my friend Alex Stephen. He, like so many others, has a incredible story of tragedy to triumph to actually working his gig to help others, and all these stories of this unfolding of greatness. I'm always so excited to hear how everybody has
Yeah.
made it to their moments. Thank you for joining me, Alex.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Sheila and Rachel, thanks a lot for pushing the buttons. We finally here.
Right.
Yeah. So it's really a delight to be here on your show. Finally. Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah.
It has taken a little while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Alex, your story starts very early with your son.
Yeah.
And I would just love to hear that story again of how that your challenges um, really helped you to move forward in a actually beautiful life.
Yes, and when it's happening to you, you don't really realize what's going on. But God put these experiences in your journey for a reason. And some people call it source, the universe. Um, and my wife and I married very young. We met in high school, and our first child, we had his christening birthday party on a Sunday. In the Caribbean, Trinidad, a lot of music, food, festive time, and then someone said, your son might be deaf. And we just brushed it aside. But my wife and I, Raz, we started paying attention to him, and we said, oh, he's really not responding to noises behind him. And he slept through all the noise. So,
And how old was he then?
1 year old.
One. Wow.
Yeah. And imagine the Monday we were in the hospital in Trinidad after all these festivities on Sunday, and in the ear, nose, and throat clinic, and the doctor just hitting a bottle and glass behind his ear saying your son is deaf.
Oh.
At the time it was devastating news. My wife, my mother-in-law was there with him. She took care of him until he was 4 before we came to the States. They were very close. That was our first grandchild. And he's all there with his curly hair, laughing, playing, not knowing what was in store in his future. And the three adults, we had tears streaming down our eyes. My wife and I never had any experience like this with any other relative or anybody close. So it was, life really hit us with a curveball then.
Right.
It did. And, I remember looking at him. He was in my wife's arms, and I look at him, and in my heart, I said, now he needs me more than ever.
Oh.
And made that commitment. So our story is really a story of commitment and faith, our journey. And that's what we want to share with people, and the different angels that God brought us through this journey to help us. And in reflection, we see that at the moment, you just think everything is coincidence.
Yeah. Well, we used to. I think now we're getting more accustomed to having miracles and
Yeah.
and connection.
Right.
And you know, it doesn't these kind of things often. I mean, sometimes it can break people up, and then other times it brings you closer together.
Well, in our case, it did bring us closer together. We had another child 2 years after Charisma, our daughter. And, we did everything together. We still do. We still go on vacations together, everything. The adults have their own homes. But one of the things I wanted to point out early in the journey, we went to the school for the deaf. The doctor said, we asked him, well, what we need to do. He said, well, Larry will get a use hearing aid. Trinidad really didn't have the equipment and the means to say how deaf he was, if it could be corrected, things like that. So he sent us to the school for the deaf. The principal said he'll have to wait 7 years. So when he's 8 years, he'll start school. And we said that's too long.
Huh.
And
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 you're
then
still in Trinidad at
still
that
in
point?
Trinidad. That was the
Uh-huh.
same Monday after the hospital. We went to the school for the deaf, which was like 10, 15 minutes away. And she said the wait is so long, so many kids deaf, and we don't have the space. And we said, that's too long. And she said, look, both of you young, and what I could advise you is go to Gallaudet University in Washington, D.C. We had no idea where that was. We'd never been to the United States at that point. And, she gave us a contact number, everything. And my wife and I look at each other, and I know the way we think, we made that commitment that we'll do the best for him. And, for the viewers looking, it wasn't easy. I'm not saying it was easy. But what I'm saying is we took the challenge and we looked for ways, we asked questions, we did research. And first of all, you got to find out what it is in your heart, what it is you want. My wife and I, Raz, we wanted to have a successful and independent adult, our son. That's what we wanted. Because if he had stayed in Trinidad, he would have been called dummy. He would have been cleaning toilets, never even finished high school, even elementary school. And, I'll talk later on where he is right now. But at the time, and I want people to know you don't have the answers. You don't know how, you don't know why, you don't know what the outcome is going to be. But with your faith and with your commitment to whatever it is in your heart, my wife and I, we met in high school doing advanced level, as I call it, which was preparation to go to university in the English system. And we had the ambition to go to university. And here we're looking at each other and saying, we're going to have degrees and have a son who doesn't even have a elementary school education. That doesn't make sense.
Right. Wow.
So
huge life changes.
Yeah, life really hit us with a curveball. And coming home, telling the neighbors, family. This one neighbor came. She the principal of the school. We consider the first angel in our journey to direct us to Gallaudet University in Washington, D.C. The second person, this neighbor, she called me one day and she said, Alex, I could see you and Raz's spirit is down. Your son is deaf. I know it's hard for a young couple, but I want to tell you something. She said, this could be the best thing that ever happened in your life. And I was like, thank you. And I'm looking at this older woman and I was like, right. How could this be the best thing that ever happened in our lives, And looking back when we were writing our book, Courage in Our Hearts, and we were, thinking about what she said and writing it down, we was like, she prophesied over us this journey and these results. What we call our first manuscript was unimaginable miracles, the things we experience. And what we're doing is really sharing this with people to help them on their journey. But we did it by trial and error. Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And how wonderful that you were able to keep, coming to the United States, to DC, you didn't know anybody. I can't even imagine that transition.
Yeah, we didn't know anybody. We keep calling the school, Kendall Elementary at Gallaudet University. The principal gave us a contact there, and she was telling us, about the program, sign language, different things like that. So we were doing research, and when Larry was 2 years old, we came to Washington, D.C. My wife had a friend she went to high school with, and we stayed with them for a week. And then we went to Chicago, and we came in November. That was our first time even in the United States. And when I came out of the airport, I really saw why they call it the Windy City. The wind almost blew me back in the airport. And Larry was 2 years old, and we did testing there at Mercy Hospital. And they said he was profoundly deaf. We spent like 3 days there, if I recollect correctly. And they gave him hearing aids, and they told us, the best thing is to get him into a school for the deaf. He wouldn't really be able to hear, and he needs to learn sign language and things like that. So it was one thing after the other.
Well,
But
you had to learn sign language.
we had to learn sign language. But I
Yeah.
mean, Larry didn't start his formal education until he was 4 years old. And I'll get to that. But on that same trip, when we came back to DC, we went to Gallaudet University, and they did some testing on him. And they said, this kid is bright. We want him in this program. And we said, well, we living in Trinidad. We're not living here, and we will have to come legally to the U.S. to go to school. They said, okay, we're giving you 1 year, and we'll hold his space. And we went back home, and it took us 2 years, and we communicated with them. But when he was 3.5 years old, we came to something called the summer learning vacation. And that's where we had our aha moment. And I want to stress to people that you got to keep plugging away, and the answers will come. When you make a commitment, the universe will move to ensure your success.
That's right.
And that's what my wife and I did. We did the research. We keep pushing ahead, and the person at Gallaudet, Jean Moore, she said, "Come to the summer learning vacation." So we had to get the money. We had to come. We still wasn't sure how we were going to come to the U.S. But at that time, my wife was working overtime. I was working full time and had a sideline business in the taxi business, just saving money because we knew we had to go to the United States. We didn't know how. We had to go legally for Larry.
And how were you communicating with him up to this point?
Well, it was like gestures, really, and showing him stuff. We didn't really know sign language. We had a book, The Joy of Signing, and we learned a few things like food, you're hungry, time to sleep, but no sort of conversation or anything like that. And he was going to the school in Trinidad half day every 2 weeks. Just half a day every 2 weeks. And my mother-in-law used to go and stay there, wait outside. I used to drop them, then pick them up, drop them home, and go back to work. So we had a lot of support from our family in terms of prayer and support and being there for us while we were in Trinidad. And so we decided we will get money, come to the summer learning vacation. We brought Larry with us. By that time, we had Charisma. She stayed home with my mom and my mother-in-law. And one thing I want to point out to people, it was a 5-day program. We signed up for the two programs because we were in the States already. But the thing is, I think it was the third or fourth night, they had something called a forum with deaf professionals. So we went to it after dinner in Gallaudet University, one of the buildings there. And that was our aha moment. When we saw deaf doctors, deaf lawyers, deaf teachers, deaf professionals, my wife and I looked at each other and just like on a high five in our mind, we said, this is it. We saw what we were looking for. We never saw that in Trinidad. In Trinidad, if somebody is deaf, they call you dummy. You just, people give you alcohol and cigarettes because they want to make, fun out of you. And we didn't want that for our son. And when we saw these deaf professionals, that was it. That was June. And Sheila, in 6 months' time, we got into Howard University. On that trip, we went to Howard. That's another angel, the guy I met in Trinidad, who told me, come to Howard. That's, and I can't talk about everything on the show. We have it all in our book. But, and when I told him we were coming to the summer learning vacation, he said, come and see Howard University. They were right off Florida Avenue. He said it's right. I mean, God put everything right there. It's just for us to go and take hold of it. And we went to the university, gave us a tour, and he was in admissions and told us what we had to do to get in. In 6 months' time, we got student visas, we got in school, everything. And on Saturday, January 8, 1983, Raz, Larry, and I were on a plane. We left Charisma. She was 2 years old on New Year's Day. And we left her home, to do the first semester and then bring her up in the summer. And we left Trinidad. We made that commitment, life-altering decision, my wife and I, to leave everything and everyone behind.
Yes.
for the future of our deaf son.
Wow. And how was Larry? How was he taking all this? Did he understand what was going on? Did he
I don't
see?
I don't think he did that much because we didn't communicate that much with him as we could have when we learned sign language after. But he probably thought we were coming to go back to Trinidad as we did in the summer learning vacation. So it was rough. And one of the things I want to stress to people that there will be people who will tell you you cannot get it done. Some of them are well-meaning and some of them are not.
Right.
I'll give an example, which was big in our lives. When we were leaving the airport, a friend of ours was in the airport. We had a lot of people come to see us off, and he touched me on the shoulder and he said, "I want to tell you something." And I look around, I said, "What is it?" And I'm holding Larry. Raz is there with a hand luggage, and we go in on the Pan American plane. I don't know if anybody here remember
Pan American.
Yeah. And he said, "You will not make this, you will fail." He looked me in the eyes and told me this. He said, with you and your wife in school full time, with 2 children, one being deaf, no extended family in a foreign country, in a cold climate, I will pick you up here in this airport next Saturday.
Oh, my.
And I'm telling you, and I want people to listen to this, that gave me strength and motivation when things got tough. I was like, that guy not picking me up, you know. So
The rebel in me would have done the same thing.
Yeah, and I was like, no way, you know. And I remember that, and those words came back. You know, when I finished school and was interviewing before I graduated to get a job, those same words came back to help me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
So 90% of the people do not care about your problems. I've heard this. And the other 10% are glad that you're the one who have it. So you better know what's in your heart. You better know what is your passion. And follow that dream. Follow your dreams. Follow your heart.
Well, you know, from this, you certainly have gotten yourself, you seem to understand situations that people are in, and you have been able, I've seen the comments.
Yeah.
People are very grateful for how you have helped them. And I think that's just wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. And how do you what exactly is your I know you have your TV shows and you do motivational speeches.
Yeah.
And how is it that you are exactly helping people?
Well, you know, the question I get, most people ask me, how did you get into this arena, so to speak, doing this type of work? And I pause and I say, I evolved into this. I didn't plan. I had no plans to get into this. I'm a CPA. My entire career has been in banking, commercial lending. I've been a vice president, director, and I had no ambition to say I will speak or write books or host a TV show. Nothing like that. And but my wife and I always said when we retire, we want to help people in deaf community, parents especially, and help them with, our journey, things that could probably help them, as especially young parents who know hearing that your child is deaf.
Right.
But how it all started and how I got into this, into helping people, is that in 2008, I was working with this personal development company, and there were 1,500 international people in Hawaii. And the person who was speaking that day, who was presenting, he said he wanted 7 volunteers to come and share this story. And after the break, I put up my hand. He said, "Oh, I have 7." And one woman, they said, if you didn't get picked, just share your story with somebody while they're setting up the stage. So while I was talking to this one woman, she was from North Carolina, she said, Alex, she started pushing me. She said, you have to get on stage. And I said, no, they already picked 7 people. She said, no, you have to get on stage. People have to hear. I said, but you haven't heard my story. She said, I could tell you, you need to get on stage. So there I was trying to go through the security and they're pushing me back. And I call out to the guy and I say, you had to hear my story. And he said, what are you saying? So I told him, you have to hear my story. He said, okay. He said, okay, add him to the list. So I was number 8. You know, he still calls me number 8 because he only wanted 7.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's how it started. So when I spoke, it was impromptu. I didn't have a speech plan. I had no idea I was going to be talking to 1,500 international people in Hawaii. And so, I spoke, and I mean, almost everybody in the audience were crying. The owners of the company were in tears, the people on my team, and then people were lining up after to talk to me. I was like, what's going on here? And people were saying, you had to write a book. You have to go out and tell your story. And there I spoke under 5 minutes off the top of my head. And
you told the story of Larry.
Yeah, I told a story how we came to it. I said, trying to tell people, motivate people that when life hits you with a curveball, the question is, what are you going to do about it? Not what your neighbor going to do, what your parents going to do, what your teacher going to do. What are you going to do about it? And that's where I can, the things that we went through, some of the things I went through in terms of education, in terms of career. And I said, after I look back, I said, that's not happiness. Happiness is really an inside job. And, so that's where the first seed was planted. People are telling me, you have to write a book, you have to come to Australia, you have to come to Europe. And then, I played around with this for a year, and I was like, I don't know how to do this. These people don't know what they're talking about. I don't know how to write a book. I've never been on no stage, really, and then my wife and I went to this seminar, and it was Turn Your Passions into Profits. And when we started to talk about our experience and things, that was it. We came back right away when we started the deafparenting.com website. And, people who were reading our blogs, following us, were saying, look, I'm not married, I don't have a child, I don't have a deaf child, but your story is helping me. It's changing the way I look at things, my perspective. It's motivating me. So we decided that we have to change the name. So then we got into Life Transforming Treasures, because we were transforming people's lives. So it evolved in terms of, how we gonna help people. But I got this vision one day. I was in church, and it was funny. I came home once and I told my wife, we're going to be on Oprah. We'll write a book. We'll have a TV show. We'll have a radio show. We'll be talking all over the world. And she started laughing. And she said, where you get that from now? Teasing me. And I said, I got that vision. And then the Monday she went to work, came back, and she was laughing, and she said, I have something to tell you. I said, what? She said, I was telling some of the guys on my team, she's a manager, tell them on her team, some of the things we're thinking about on doing. And they said, oh, you guys going to be on Oprah. You guys going to write a book. You guys going to have a TV show. So I said, the joke is on you now. But the thing is, things started to unfold. We did the first book. Now we have 4 books. We have 12 CDs, 5 DVDs, and
oh my gosh!
So people get help. I mean, even on Facebook, people who I don't even interact with read my posts and they say, "Oh, you helped me." That when I now started, I was like, "Oh, am I helping these people?" I like quotations. I've done a compilation of them in my book, Inspirational Quotes, and now people keep telling me they get healed by touching. They feel my energy. They hear my voice. And my clients, my coaching clients, tell me that. one guy, he was an executive in this company, and he said it's just therapeutical to hear your voice. We had a session one day, and when it was finished, I was like, oh my God, we didn't do anything we were supposed to do today. And he said, no. He said, no, just talking to you
exactly.
is therapeutical. And, I have clients who will just call in to me. Some of them, the session is up, but they'll just call in. And I say, how could I help you? What's up? And they're like, oh, I just want to hear your voice. It's healing. So people are getting help in different ways. I've the feedback I'm getting. So it's getting more and more intense.
So in your helping, you kind of do you help people kind of find their passion and a direction to go? I mean, I know a lot of people, they want to find their passion. They want to do something that feels like, a purpose. And oftentimes they really already are, and they just don't realize it.
But my coaching clients, my tagline for my coaching is get on a mission to live your passion. And I have, a variety of clients that come to me in terms of coaching. Some of them want to leave their job. Some of them, start a business. Some of them already in a business, but they're not doing as well. And it's all mindset. It's all how you think, So I have clients who came to me already, and they already know what their passion is. They know what their passion is, what they want to do. So what I tell people, there are a few steps. You have to accept where you are. You have to be aware. Then you have to accept. You have to find your passion. You have to know what is your why. What will wake you up at 2 a.m. in the morning and you jump out of bed and want to do it? You have to know that why. And, because some people come and they just want to set goals. And I say, no. We have to start before that. You might be setting goals because you see a neighbor doing good in something. That's not your passion. Once you get challenges in that area, you're going to drop off because that's not what you really, that's not your purpose. That's not what you're really about. And
I'm sure that that would take some clearing up on some.
It takes some
instances.
Yeah, it takes some clearing up, and with some people it's harder than some because some of them's like, oh, I'm not doing that. I'm not paying you for that. And for example, I had one client. We had all the strategies how they could leave their job over 20 something years, the location, the clientele, how everything. And I said, one thing is blocking you, and she said, what's that? I said, you have to get into forgiveness.
Oh boy.
And she said, what are you talking about? I forgive. And I say, really? I said, okay, you meditate, try to sit down. You know how to get to these people. Your father died 16 years ago. You don't talk to your mom, your ex-husband and you having all sort of challenges. You're a single parent and you're doing good, but things blocking you. And, that went on for a couple of times. I'm not doing that, and it's like,
so you intuitively knew.
Yeah, well, I could see from the conversation, from the things that was going on, and things, like we were then everything looked good on paper, but it was not happening. And then she emailed me one Saturday morning and said, I need to talk to you. I said, okay, call me. And she said, I finally followed what you said. And I'm experiencing miracles after miracles. So I tell people when they come into my coaching, it's not just some black and white stuff, things set up. It's tailor made to your situation. What are you going through right now? What point in your life you are at? Some people know their passion, some don't. And that's okay. We'll work on it. Whatever point you're in, and then get you to commitment and persistence and all that, and thinking about your legacy, living life with a sense of humor, all that stuff we incorporate, but we go through it, people at different stages.
Well, yes, different stages and different
Yeah.
pre-experiences,
Mm.
and we have so many healers here on the show that's,
Yeah.
that you kind of have to get through some of that healing and let go
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
that flow comes. That was my experience. I went through some incredible healing, and and then Rachel found me and our show started, and
Yeah.
this is my passion,
Yeah.
and this was the most amazing unfoldment, and what a process, and it's just nice to be able to give people hope,
Yeah. Yeah.
that there's a way to, and counseling has changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's more, with all the healers and people who have stories like you and have set things up like that. We have so many different ways to break those
Yeah.
old patterns and break that block
Yeah.
open, and how wonderful that you've and then it's your book, courage,
Courage in our hearts.
in
Yeah.
our hearts. Is that
Yeah.
the story of Larry?
Yeah, that's a story. Well, our family story, and it's here. All our books are on Amazon. And if people want to go on my website, alexstephen.com/books, they could see the books there, our CDs, DVDs, alexstephen.com/store. They
your
could contact me.
your website is very impressive,
Oh, thank
and
you.
it's
Yeah.
very easy to make your way through that and see
Mhm.
what it is that you're offering,
Yeah.
and I noticed at the bottom there was that free uh, ebook, seven, what was it?
7 Keys to Your Dream Lifestyle.
Okay,
Yeah,
tell
so
me a little bit about that.
yeah, well, that's something I offer people. It's not very long. It's like 2 sentences each. I'm telling people some of the things they need to do to realize their dream lifestyle.
Mm.
And it's some the things I incorporate in my life coaching is being aware of where you are, finding your passion, being committed, finding that inner happiness, that sort of thing. But it's just something free I give to people. It's simple, but it's very effective.
Okay, what about people who are in that 9 to 5 job that they can't see how to get out of that to get into their passion? I mean, is
Yeah.
that the strategy that you help out with?
Well, that's a lot of it. That's a lot of it. That I see people coming to me with that. They're just fed up with the rat race, so to speak, the commute, the politics, the bureaucracy. They're just fed up with that, not spending enough family time, just working to pay bills. And that's where I coach people and I talk to them about it. And it's a conversation that we have, their experiences, their dreams, and we sort of try to close that gap. And what I tell people is, look, I'm not going to tell you what to do. That's not my job. What I'm here to do is to listen to you. And then, as a coach, hold your hand, ask you the right questions. As my mentor and speaking coach Les Brown says, when you're in the frame, you cannot see the picture. So you need somebody outside to give you, if it's not a formal coach, if you can't afford that, ask people. I've realized growing up, asking people for help, people love to help. Once you ask people for advice, they love to help. Nobody will ask for advice and they'll say, no, get away from me. People love to help. So,
Yes.
look for help. And I tell people, asking for help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and let's tell everyone about Larry now.
Yeah.
It's very exciting what he's doing now.
Yeah. Well, Larry had well, I'll start when he started school in Kendall, just to give a little picture so people don't feel he came here and it just all blossomed. When he came to school in 1983, his first teacher, they have something called an IEP, Individual Education Plan. We didn't know what that was, and they called us in to sign it. And my wife and I had to take time off from school. We were in school full time. And we went and we said, could we read it? And they said yes. And when we read it, we're not signing this. It was like a death sentence, and it was like, get back home, like he doesn't belong in the program. So we pushed back right there, and it was like 7, 8 people against both of us. And we say, we're not signing this. Something is wrong here. There are a lot of misconceptions and assumptions. This thing is wrong. You guys are writing about us. So long story short, they moved Larry to a different class, a different teacher. I mean, in a few weeks' time, I went to pick him up one afternoon, and she said, Alex, I want to talk to you. So I thought he was in trouble. She said, this kid is so brilliant. The only thing he cannot do is be a pilot because he can't hear the tower. This kid is so brilliant. He was 4 years and about 4 months, 5 months old. He was even 5 years. He now started his education, his communication skills. And in a few months' time and being in school, before the summer, he started in January, before the summer, they had 7 awards in the elementary school, and Larry got 4.
Oh my goodness.
Compared to kids who started there when they were 2 months, 3 months old in the daycare, growing up with sign language and communicating, he got 4 awards out of 7.
Well, so he didn't seem to think there was any blocks for him at all.
There was no blocks for him because this teacher showed him how to blossom. She encouraged him. She brought out the talent in him and the confidence in him. And that's, I have to give a shout out to teachers like Linda Monshine, compared to the other teachers who just don't want to do their jobs, write off the kids instead of doing what they should be doing. And everybody's not the same.
Right.
That's how the world is. But and that's where he started blossoming, doing well in school. People recognize him, and it's like, oh my God, he came here when he was 4 years and 4 months old, and he's just blasting through.
Wow. And then, did you notice a change in was he happier? Did you see him blossom?
Yeah, he always an active child, and as more we used to go every Saturday and learn sign language so we could communicate with him more. Still have a great sense of humor, but always know where he wants to go in life. I remember, we moved to Massachusetts when he was like 10 years old, and he started going to the Learning Center in Framingham. And his school supervisor was like, when he was in high school, asked us, how come Larry's the only child in school here who know where he's going in life, and he has it written down? I mean, he had like 15 things and exercise he did in school, things he wanted to achieve when he grew up as an adult. And I have it by my desk. And I showed it to Ravina, his daughter or granddaughter. And I said, this is all it. She's like, yeah. Oh, he wanted a child. That's me. He wanted to play soccer for the U.S. Well, he did. All these things, and she went through it. And it's good to see that. But he always had that determination. He's brilliant. And so he graduated his high school in Framingham valedictorian. He went to university on the West Coast at Cal State University, Northridge, when he was 17 years old. And my wife.
Did they have like a deaf?
Yeah, they have the interpreting and the well, the school is a hearing school. They had like 25,000 then. I think now it's over 40-something thousand. But they had like 300 deaf students at the National Center of Deafness in the school. So they had that support with interpreters and things like he wanted to go there. And so he did very well in school. But I want to tell, parents who listening, it wasn't easy to say everything happened automatic. There were challenges, times we had to work with him. I remember when he was 11 years old, we moved up to Massachusetts, and he and I was home alone. We were together. My wife and daughter wasn't there, and he wasn't doing his homework. And I was like, when you're doing your homework, he said, I don't know how to do my homework. I said, why? He said, I will be a professional soccer player. I don't need homework. So I don't think it was funny then. So, now it's fun. Yeah.
I bet
So
not.
I know. So I said, come, let me talk to you. And I started to tell him the sacrifices we made, the goals and dreams we had for him. Poor kid, he didn't know. He was just going along. We came to school here. And then he started crying. And I said, look, I don't see my parents, my friends, your grandmother, and they're missing you guys, and I went through all this. And then I told him, I said, your education is so important. You must have an education. You could be the best soccer player in the world. You could break your foot. The coach could drop you from the team. A number of things could happen. But once you have your education, you could fall back on it. People will respect you more. More doors will open for you. I mean, from that point, Sheila, we never had to talk to Larry about school again. He got it. He got it. Once, when he was a senior, so he got recruited. He was playing soccer so well in the town. He was on an all-star team. Then coaches and clubs saw him. The all-star coach was a varsity coach from Marlborough. He was going to school in Framingham, and the coach, I was signing for him on the side. The coach said,
I was wondering how you did that.
Yeah, and the coach said, who's that kid? I said, that's my son. And I was signing. If the coach say anything or the coach telling him anything, I'll sign.
Right.
And the coach said, oh man, he's so good. He's a natural talent. And he said, I want him to play varsity. Well, junior varsity and then varsity in this school. I said, how you'll do that? He doesn't go to school there. He said, but he live in Marlborough. I could get a waiver for him. And he said, will he come? I said, well, I'm the interpreter. I can't answer for him. I knew the answer, but I said, I have to interpret for him, and he will tell you. So when halftime he came off, and, I told him what the coach said, and we were having a conversation. He jumped on me, hugged me, and the coach said, I assume that's a yes. So from there, but it wasn't easy. There are other parents challenging it and saying, why is he coming here? My kid is off the team because of him. He's deaf. He doesn't go to school here. So there was a lot of challenges. There were a lot of sleepless nights for us because we wanted to support him and be there for him and be an advocate for him. So I want parents to know that you have to be there for your child. And even non-parents, when things happen in your, don't give up that easily. Once you know what your goals are, what your passion is, look for the right ways to pursue it. Don't give up that easily. There are sometimes you have to be flexible. You have to, reorganize all that stuff. I'm not saying no, but you have to stick to the plan.
Well, and you kind of have to have faith that the universe will help.
Yeah, the universe.
That's huge.
These were unimaginable miracles because when Larry came to us when he was around 11 and he told my wife and I want to play, club soccer, I want to play Olympics, the World Cup. And he's like, how he's going to do that? I don't know a club here, nothing. So we joined him in the town team and one thing led to the other. But my wife used to take him there. My daughter, our daughter Charisma was younger than him. She used to sign for him. As he got older, the special needs division used to pay for his interpreters when he started to play varsity in the night. During the day when we couldn't be there, in the night I used to go and interpret for him. But it's been a journey. And I remember when he was 15 playing basketball for his school then, and they had a birthday party by one of his friends. And the dad came to me while the kids were playing basketball out on the street, and he said, I noticed something with you and Larry. You guys have a friendship like two brothers. You're not like father, son. And he said, my son doesn't even want to be around me. If he's playing with his friends, he doesn't want his friends to see me. And he said, how you do that? I said, well, I didn't do anything. We just been together all the time. And it come naturally. He want to do this. We'll tell him the pros and cons. He make the decision. And, we support him. My wife and I will support him. And I said, what's the relationship with you and your kid? He said, well, I never used to really have anything to do with him, but now that he's 15, I want to get in his life. I said, well, it's never too late, but it's kind of tough.
Yes. Okay. So. I am so grateful. My kids love for me to hang out with them. And
Yeah,
that is like golden. I mean,
it's gold. We still go on vacation. We do a lot of things together. We're grateful for that.
mm,
We're very grateful for that. So, I mean, Larry played Division One varsity on hearing teams. He played club. He played in Wales. The only deaf team he played on was the U.S. Deaf Olympic team. He represented the U.S. He wore the red, white, and blue. He played in Italy. I mean, nothing stops him. He works hard. He's a hard worker, and his coaches and his teachers will tell you that.
wow.
And one of his coaches from one of the book, I think it's chapter 7 on persistence. It's like an interview with him, Brian Ainscourt from Ireland, and he when Larry was playing for him, they lost a game one weekend and a practice on the Tuesday night. We were there, and he's thinking, and he called the boys together, and he said, "I don't understand this." And he can't say Larry, he say Larry with a D. Larry is deaf, and he's the only kid on this team that listens to me.
Uh-huh. Right?
Yeah, and that's a line that stuck with us. And when we were doing the interview, I was doing a podcast. Then we didn't plan to. We weren't doing the book then, but we ended up doing a whole chapter with him talking on Larry's confidence. And Larry called him the best coach in the world, and he said, and he had tears, his eyes got watery, and he said, "You guys call me the best coach in the world. You don't know what your son did for me."
Oh,
He said, when I saw his work ethic, all the other hearing kids, they come late, they lackadaisical. He said he will score goals, we'll win the matches, and Larry was still not satisfied. He said he still saw room for improvement. He said, you know what he did to me? With my hearing, all my senses, and when I wanted to slack off, I'll think of Laddie. So it's give and take. And Larry wanted to go to school at Cal State Northridge in California. And Brian was home by us for dinner, and he said, "Alex, you're gonna send him?" I say, "He'll go wherever he wants to go." He said, "I'll take him in here." I said, "He go to your school, he'd be the only deaf kid in the whole university. He wouldn't have that support. He wouldn't even enjoy playing on the team. Let him go where he want to go." And he blossomed there. He did so well. He started a group for deaf students from around the world. It's big now. He was a founder and president. From that group, the school sent him to Gallaudet University, and that's how he was introduced to his wife. So one thing led to the other.
And I bet you've seen, I bet there wasn't a whole lot of tech out whenever he was a baby. I bet you've seen that whole thing change.
Oh, man, don't even talk about that. When he went to school in California, I used to get like 2 hours sleep. We had something called a TTY then. And you had to put the phone, it wasn't like these phones now. You had to put the phone down, the part you speak on and the hearing part on it, and type, and it's like a silent radio.
Yes.
And sometimes you can't, and he was 3 hours behind. He'd call at 12, we asleep. And he was having so much problems. So just like any other kids who go to school away from home, things don't always work out, right away. It takes a little while. And now it's like texting and email and Skype and FaceTime. So, that's a big, huge difference.
Oh, yeah. Now, on your shows, do you have someone signing, or is there like something, because I belong to a deaf group at Facebook.
Okay.
And since we've been talking, I'm like, well, gee, too bad I can't pass these shows over to them somehow. How could I do that?
We the shows I do on the Access TV, Medfield TV, no, we don't have anyone signing. But I've done a show with Larry. We have a studio that I've done it, and we had an interpreter interpret for him, and that's a popular DVD that we have. This is it here with him that it's called. He named it "Triumphant in the Face of Adversity."
Oh.
this discussion. So we have interpreter, but how you could do it on YouTube, I think there's somewhere to caption it. If you take the YouTube end product and you hit caption, they should be able to caption your voice, the voice. So they could read the caption. They wouldn't see somebody sign it. They could read the English.
Right.
Yes, I know YouTube have that. There might be other apps out there. I'm not sure.
Well, I sure wish that we could include that into our programs because I know that within that group, it is limited to what we can share, and I was so grateful to be included in that group because I do have a few people who have deaf children, so I'm slightly, accustomed to the issues that they're dealing with. And like my sister-in-law, she's, Skype has been incredible for her to keep in contact with her grandchildren. Who can hear and be with the mom. It's just amazing. Thank God for the tech that
all
we've
this
got
technology
now.
we have
Yeah.
now. Yeah, so let me know that Facebook group, and we will like to invite them. My wife runs two fan pages, IEP Goals Made Easy, and another one she has is deafparenting.com. So there are a lot of resources there and a lot of things going on. It'll be good to interact with them there. So let me know the group, we could join it. But we're very grateful to where Larry has reached, and our entire family has benefited on this journey. My wife and I got a education, corporate jobs. Our daughter also. Our kids are independent. They both have their own homes. Larry's wife is from Singapore. They both did their masters in Maryland, are here in school, and they both teach. He's a professor teaching American Sign Language, people who wants to get licensed as interpreters, and he does deaf studies also. And as I mentioned to you when we spoke, he just got promoted to chair the department.
Yes.
And they told him he's the youngest to chair the department, and he's the first deaf professor to chair the department.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, he has 8 hearing professors under him and 7 deaf. And, he was just on the board of Deaf Inc., the first deaf person to be on Deaf Inc. A lot of firsts. He was the first on a varsity hearing team, first in club soccer on the East Coast here, first deaf. So he did a lot of, and he considered himself a pioneer. He gives back to the deaf community. We spend so much time with what they call CODA, kids of deaf adults. So like our granddaughter, she could hear, but both her parents are deaf. So they have these hearing kids that, they have this community where they do different activities and celebrations together. So she have that set of friends. They could exchange notes. They're proud and confident of their deaf parents. It's not something to be ashamed of.
That's right.
They could see how their parents independent. They have their own home, their own cars, their own jobs. They travel all over the world, do whatever they want, except talk. They communicate with sign language. So he has come a long way, thank God.
Is his intuition pretty strong?
He has a strong intuition. He could judge things. He could, he's pretty good with that. Pretty good. And I admire that sort of circle of friends that he has. He could really discern a lot.
Yes. Well, we got to go. I am so happy to have you on here, and I will pass over that to group because I would love to be able to interact a little bit more over there.
Yeah, we could talk about that.
Well, thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this. Now, let's say again where we can find you.
Well, my website is www.alexsteven.com, and there you'll see my coaching, my books, my TV shows. And if you want to contact me, info@alexsteven.com. You could contact me by email that way. And it's been great to be on the show. And thanks, Rachel, for pushing the buttons, and thanks, Sheila, for having me, and having this great conversation. I really enjoyed it, and I want to help people, and I want to emphasize that, follow your dreams, follow your heart, take the risk, and once you're committed, the universe will move to ensure that you succeed. And as Martin Luther King said, you don't have to see the entire staircase. As human beings, we want to know why, how, or what's at the end. Martin Luther said, take the first step of faith, and it's all going to come. So I want to leave our viewers with that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
All right, peeps. We'll see you in a couple of days.
Yeah.
From my heart to yours.
Yeah.
Namaste.
Namaste.
You've been listening to Heart Talks with Sheila Sistar. Catch her every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. Heck, she's on almost all the time nowadays. On Heart Talks Online.